and has been forever, went on a trip with his granddaughter. I'll get that later. And that's why we're having this program today. Now, I know that kind of piques your curiosity, but let me tell you, the gentleman that I'm going to introduce you to retired from a 14-year career as an AP history teacher and department chair in the San Francisco Bay Area to work full-time with Sojourn to the Past. He has designed the Sojourn moving classroom experience with a rigorous curriculum for students that is aligned with California and national curriculum content standards. Since its inception, he has led over 6,000 students through Sojourn's living history lesson along the path of the civil rights movement through 5 states in the American South. Currently, Sojourn to the Past is active throughout California, New York, Ohio, and Massachusetts. He does hundreds of interactive presentations annually across the country on the lessons of the civil rights movement and their relationship to current human rights issues and conditions. This program has gotten numerous awards, and I know you have things in front of you because Alan and I passed them out. If you look on the back of it, there is a list of all the awards and recognition this program has gotten. So I am truly delighted to introduce to you the founder of Sojourn to the Past, which was founded in 1999, and his name, please welcome him, a big Rotary welcome, Jeff Steinberg.
Can we dim the lights a little bit so the screen shows even better?
Once I get your picture, I'll get it.
Sheila, can you give him the wireless microphone?
You know what? I'm even okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Jeff Steinberg, and thank you for inviting me here today. It's a real treat to be here. I was a high school teacher for 14 years, so props to the young people here. When young people are here, it's wonderful. I taught AP US History, other levels as a department chair. I taught at a school called Cappuccino High School. Cappuccino is in San Bruno, where I also went to high school. My last year at the school, I just decided that people don't really get it. I say it on purpose. Really understand what real nonviolence is, real compassion, real courage. So I decided to take a leave of absence and start, and all I wanted to do was take 30 kids from my own class into the South. I took 100 the first year. When I saw how well this went, I decided this isn't just for my students, this is for anybody who wanted to be involved, Rotarians included. So I took a leave of absence. The district I taught in has never given a teacher more than a 2-year leave of absence. They cut you loose after 2 years. They gave me 7 years in a row. And then they said, please resign, please resign. So I formed my own nonprofit organization called Sojourn to the Past. So I'm the founder, I'm the lead teacher, and to date we've done 71 trips and taken over 7,000 people. I've been on them all. I have my colleague with me here who designed this presentation you're about to see, so he's really the brilliance behind much of this. This is my colleague, wonderful person named Steve Schultz. So I just want to go to Steve. Now, I'm going to walk you through the program. It's called Sojourn to the Past. I named it after Sojourner Truth. Well, we were honored at the White House a couple years ago. Michelle Obama invited me to come to the White House, and she said, I want to honor this program. Well, what a treat to go to the White House. Well, to be at the White House, she said, bring a student with you. So I asked this student to come with me, who had had this transformative experience, because each trip is 10 days long, and I'll share that in a moment. She was so nervous meeting Michelle Obama, so nervous. I said, relax, she will be wonderful. He said, really? I don't know what I'm going to do. I have to show you the film clip of what happened when this young student met Michelle Obama. Please take a look.
Sojourn to the Past in San Bruno, California immerses high school students from diverse backgrounds in a 10-day academic journey along the path of the civil rights movement through 5 states. Employing rigorous research, analysis, and dialogue, the program encourages deep exploration of the civil rights movement and its relationship to current social issues. Sojourn was honored by the United States Congress as the longest-running program of its kind.
Why were we honored? Now I get serious, even though the kid is so darling there. I call it the two-step shuffle. Michelle Obama invited us to the White House because we do anti-racism work. And I am convinced in 2014, racism is alive and well. So this presentation may be a little controversial, thought-provoking, but that's what I like. We also do nonviolence work because violence is alive and well. And we make the argument at Sojourn that we have to get to the younger generation to stop racism and to stop violence. Let me share with you. We've had a number of awards, and I just want to share them with you. John Lewis, one of the icons of the civil rights movement, spoke about this program on the floor of Congress. And he said, Sojourn wants to end discrimination, violence, hatred, and bigotry. Wasn't that what all of us want to do? Isn't that the goal of everybody? We have been honored twice by the California legislature. Twice they have honored this program. I received the Carter Woodson Award. Carter Woodson is the father of Black history. The irony is they flew me back to Chicago, 2,000 people. It was a wonderful event. I'm not a fan of Black history because I have a problem. When you have Black history here, Latino history here, Asian history here, who are we saying U.S. history is for then? I argue this is our shared history as Americans. So instead of this being taught in February, shortest month of the year, I would argue this should be taught in September, October, November, December, January. I'd skip February, March, April, May, and June. Because I want to say it again, this is our shared history. When people say to me, Jeff, do you take people in summertime? I say, absolutely not. 2 reasons. I'm born in the Bay Area, so I'm a weather wimp. I freely admit that. Nobody wants to be in the South in summer. But 2 is this is part of curriculum. This is not an adjunct to curriculum. This is part of curriculum, and it should be on school time. So, as I go a little deeper here, please take a look. Now, the theme of this trip is nonviolence. People say if you're nonviolent, you're a wimp. As a matter of fact, if I ask the high school kids to come up here, and I do 200 of these presentations a year, and I bring a high school student up and I say, I know, I'm going to ask them 2 questions, and I know what they're going to say. And I'm not Johnny Carson doing the pre-thing. I know the answer because I argue we've all been programmed. So I say to the kids when I talk nonviolence, just answer me as you normally would. I say, if somebody gets in your face, what have you been taught? They always say, I get in their face. If somebody hits you, what have we been taught? I hit him back. Those are the answers every student gives me. Well, I didn't write these. Dr. King wrote these, and I dare anyone in this room to call Dr. King a wimp. Number 1, nonviolence is a way of life for courageous people. You're not a wimp, you're a person of courage. People think nonviolence is you hit me, I turn the other way. That's not nonviolence. Nonviolence means 2 words that we share with young people, really just 2 words. And those 2 words are, think differently. We want our young people to think differently. They don't have to do it the way TV has said, social media has said. They are independent thinkers. Did anybody see the March on Washington in August, the 50th anniversary was all over the news, at the Lincoln Memorial? Dr. King would have been rolling over in his grave, I'm convinced, because it said, Dr. King led all these people. I was offended. What happened to self-determination? People don't have to be led. Young people are self-determining. They can determine their own destiny, and I think it's really important when we teach about the civil rights movement that self-determination is key. I have the young man back here who's behind the scenes doing all this incredible work. You know what? I want to give him my highest compliment. Somebody gave me this definition of Dr. King, and I applied to this young man here. Dr. King was a follower. What? I've always learned he was a leader. People asked Dr. King to come, and when Dr. King was asked, he went. That is what a good leader does. He goes where he's asked to go, and he does at the whim of the people. So all the work you're doing, when you're asked to do stuff, you're actually a leader in the highest sense of the compliment. So, if you don't get what I'm doing here, we're thinking differently. By the way, the civil rights movement has been mistaught, and I get ticked off at it. It was a women and children's movement. It's always taught paternally. Well, that's wrong. It was women and children who changed this country. Our history books won't tell us that. Dr. King did not lead people. And this is one of the messages I want to leave. People are self-determining, even at age 15, 16. And if anyone followed what happened in Birmingham in the 60s, I heard some people today, those were 10-year-olds who were in the parks. They were self-determining, even at age 10. So we have to get out of this realm of people being led. Because you know what kids say to me today? When we teach this, who's going to be our leader today? That's a dangerous game. Look in the mirror and you'll see who the leaders are. So, Condoleezza Rice, Republican, from Birmingham, Alabama, first black female Secretary of State. She knows racism. Listen to what she said about racism, please.
First of all, we're never going to erase race as a factor in American life. It is a birth defect with which this country was born out of slavery. We're never really going to be race blind, but we have gotten to a place that race is not the limiting factor that it once was.
So did you hear that? She said we were born in 1776 with this birth defect called racism. I would argue, if my math is right, 237 years later, we still are dealing with this birth defect. We have not got rid of it yet. And I argue my parents' generation has mucked it up. My generation has mucked it up. I have two little boys, 9 and 10. It's up to their generation now to try and get this right. So, if you take a look at this map here, it's from the Southern Poverty Law Center, a group we meet. This map is taken from 2013. It tracks hate groups in the country. I was sure most hate groups lived in Mississippi and Alabama, Tennessee, where I bring young people. I was wrong. 2013, the #1 state in the country with the most hate groups, a state called California. I'd like to show where they're living just in the Bay Area. I could not get them all in my PowerPoint. Dublin, Oakland, Richmond, Sacramento, San Francisco, San Bruno. My office is in San Bruno. San Bruno is right by the San Francisco airport where many of you have been. How do I know that's a white supremacist group on my screen? 2 ways. Look at the name. You don't have to be Einstein to figure it out. Things are code language now. And 2, my name is on their website. They follow the work we do. They follow our schedule, which is public. So I take racism really seriously because in the 1950s and 60s, it was life and death to many to get this poison away from us. Let me share, if I may. We argue now was the time for all of us because the civil rights movement was all about being an American. And if we talk about being an American, we all know hatred's un-American and we can do better. So let me share with you this story. Does anybody remember in 2000 where 3 synagogues were firebombed in Sacramento? Anybody remember that? Synagogue is a place of worship equivalent to a church. Who would ever do that? It happened in his area. He represents Sacramento. This person, this elected leader, is the head of the California Senate today. He's the Senate pro tem. So next to the governor, the most powerful politician in California, he happens to be my older brother. My older brother's name is Steinberg, which some of you may have heard of. And if you like him, come up to me after. If you don't, please don't. My brother has been in politics for many years, so he represents Sacramento. He's 2 years older than I am. He's my best friend. I love him. I'm, of course, a better athlete than he is. Don't all younger brothers say that? I said he's the second most powerful politician in California, and I believe in nepotism, so it's good. Now, when the synagogue bombings happened, they happened in my brother's district. He didn't know the men who did this. The FBI arrested these 2 men, Matthew and Tyler Williams, for murdering a gay couple, tying them into the synagogue bombings. When the FBI did a search warrant of their house, they found a list of 30 names these men were targeting to murder. On top of their list was my brother Daryl. They said, Daryl, don't drive home the same way. We think you're being followed. How many of us drive home the same way every day? Most of us do. They said, check your blinds and windows at night. He had young children, afraid somebody's going to shoot his kids through his windows. They gave him protection for a month and a half. Nothing has happened to my brother yet, thank God. The Williams brothers are in prison forever, where they belong. My family, to this day, still doesn't know if they're connected to some other white supremacist organization. Why do I share this? Because when it happened nearly 14 years ago, it was really painful. It's not Mississippi, it's not Alabama, it's not the 1960s. This was Sacramento. So the premise of our program is, you don't have to go to the South to see this. All we have to do is look at our own backyards, our own communities, our own schools, and for some of us, our own families. Now, as I share this, on this trip, we fly from San Francisco to Atlanta. We bus to Montgomery, Alabama, Selma, Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, Little Rock, Arkansas. Finished 10 days later in Memphis. Finished in the spot where Dr. King was shot. I call it hallowed ground. What does hallow mean? Hallow is sacred. I always say to kids, my head is hollow. Hallow is sacred. And why are these cities sacred? Blood was spilled in every city on that screen to make America be what it should be. Free and equal for everyone. Now, we travel 10 days at a time. By the way, we take adults with us. As we travel, I'm leaving in February. These are the number of schools I'm taking, including Boston and Los Angeles. Most are in the Bay Area. Then we go in March with another group of schools. We take about 100 people at a time. We have not been in Livermore yet. Hint, hint. Now, I've been asked to take 3 Catholic schools in April. Dates are still being determined. So, we travel 10 days at a time. Now, oh my goodness, had anybody seen this? Dr. King on the cover of Time magazine, this is in August. Dr. King is a founding father? Do you all remember when we were little and we learned about the founding fathers? I don't remember Dr. King. I remember George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. You don't all believe that story about Ben Franklin and the kite, do you? Flying that kite in the rain with the key? Come on, what a shocker. Now, stay with me. Alexander Hamilton, I don't remember Dr. King being part of that. So Dr. King is a founding father? Well, I wrote something controversial. When I say controversial, I actually mean this. American freedom and democracy is not founded in Philadelphia in 1776 only. True American freedom was actually founded in the American South in the 50s and 60s. And the people I'm about to introduce you to who meet us on this journey, in my opinion, are the real founding fathers and founding mothers of this country. The real. And as I share this, here they are. I ask high school students, how many of these people do you recognize? Sometimes I'll get out of a group of 200, one will raise their hand. So here's my challenge. I argue our young people have been ripped off. And I mean the word ripped off. Why? These people are not in our history books. They are not in our history books. They all paid a price for this country, and most people don't know who they are. Well, that is very troubling to me. And let me go one step further. These people believed in real freedom. Every one of them believed in real freedom. Ready for some controversy? Not one of them was a slave owner. Thomas Jefferson. Not one of them was a slave owner. George Washington. True and real freedom, and they're not in our history books. We have a job to do. Now, I just want to walk you through one or two people. I'm going to just take you here very quickly. I'm going to take you to Little Rock, Arkansas, so you get a feel for what we do. This is the first school, one of the first schools in the South to allow students of color to go to school with white kids. It's called Central High School, biggest school I've ever seen. Students go to school on the first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor, there's a fifth floor. 1957, it's still a high school today, by the way, called Central High. 1957, these black students volunteered to go to high school here. This is the person I want to talk about. Her name is Minnie Jean Brown. But I want to be clear. Minnie Jean went to an all-black high school. Why would she want to leave her school and her friends and go to Central High? White schools had new books. Kids of color had used or no books. White schools had facilities like this room. Kids of color went to school in 1 or 2 room schoolhouses. You want to get really upset? The state of Arkansas gave money to white schools to build science labs. There were no science labs in the black schools because they said black kids weren't smart enough to be scientists. You know what their schools trained them for? To do domestic work. Now I need to tell you, there's nothing wrong with domestic work. It's hard, it's wonderful, people work hard. But what if you want to be a scientist? So what did these kids want? They wanted the same opportunities white students were receiving. Minnie Jean was the most terrorized of the 9. Listen to my language, I just said terrorized. She didn't use the word bullying, she didn't use the word harassment. You know what she calls it, my adults? She calls it American terrorism at its best, what she went through. She's 5'10". People degraded her because of her weight. She's a big person, called her the N-word, degraded her because she was a woman. Minnie Jean fought back. I know she's smiling, but I don't call it a smile of happiness. I say fill in the blank, smile of blank. Students will say smile of pride, love it. Smile of courage, love it. You know what I call that smile? It's a smile of defiance. She wasn't going to let them break her. Minnie Jean was the only one of the night who was expelled. Can you imagine being the first black student in the country to go when you're kicked out? How humiliating. It made news all over the country. Oops. Minnie Jean sat in one of my presentations. Do you know how nerve-wracking it was having her sit while I'm doing this? And I said, it made news all over the country, and she interrupted me. She said, no. I said, why are you interrupting me? She said, it made news all over the world. I said, yes, ma'am. She's expelled in February 1958. She's suspended in December. Does anybody know the definition of insanity? I will give it to you right now. She's in the cafeteria. You've all been in cafeterias. And she has a bowl of chili, a roll, and a milk. And she's walking down with her tray, and student sticks out her legs, calls her the N-word. She gets by. Another student sticks out legs, calls her the N-word. Another one, another one, another one. She can't take it. She doesn't say anything. She takes her tray and she drops it. Chili spills on 2 or 3 white boys. She walks out with her head held high. They boo her as she's leaving. The students terrorizing her were not suspended. They suspended Minnie Jean for what they called the chili incident, dropping chili on white boys. Now, your children are going to have a teacher in college, I promise, or high school, that if you get one thing, get this. And the teacher's going to say, because this is what all documentaries say, Minnie Jean took the chili and she dumped it over a student's head. If a teacher ever says that, can you imagine this? I'm taking notes in a high school or college. And instead of saying she dropped it, they say she took it and she dumped it. I tell kids, jump out of your seat. Run to the front of the class. Step in front of the teacher and say, stop the lesson! That is a bold-faced lie. They'll be suspended. They'll be suspended. That's supposed to be funny. Now, isn't there always a price for truth we pay in this country? Oh my goodness. Why am I going over chili? Is there a difference in dropping a tray and dumping it over someone's head? Minnie Jean has been shamed by history. You know what the word shame means? She's been shamed. You know what she says she did? Her words. She accidentally dropped her tray on purpose. I don't know what it means, but I like it. Why was she expelled? In February, imagine being in a high school hallway. A girl comes up to her with a small purse. In it, she has 6 locks you put on your locker. Purse is heavy. Walks up to her, says, hey, Minnie Jean, high school girl. She takes it. Minnie Jean turns around, takes the purse, throws it at her, hits her in the head. Minnie Jean calls the student white trash. The student or hitting her was not expelled. They expelled Minnie Jean for these 5 words on the bottom of the screen. Inappropriate language after being attacked. Excuse me, this is our country. This is the beautiful Minnie Jean in 1957. This is the beautiful Minnie Jean today. She never knew why she was targeted. She was 16 when she went there. She found out 7 years ago. She went there in 1957. A woman wrote a book called Bitters in the Honey. In the book, she interviewed only white kids like this boy to find out what they thought of the 9. Only white kids. Minnie Jean read this book, cried for days because she didn't know why she was the target. I said she cried for days. One woman said it. Please look at the screen. The reason we hate Minnie Jean so much is because she walked the halls like she belonged there. How many of our students walk halls like they belong there, and they do, and someone's ever made them feel like they don't belong? Minnie Jean has paid the price. Now, unfortunately, she doesn't meet us on this trip. Take a look, please. But she's with her student. But she doesn't meet us. But she's with 2 students. But she doesn't meet us. She's with a whole group. Why doesn't she meet us? Because she comes on the trip for the full 10 days. She teaches along the way. Our kids are able to hang out with one of the Little Rock 9. This doesn't happen for kids anywhere else in the country. It happens for our students. Can anybody imagine somebody, Minnie Jean's now 72. 72-year-old traveling 10 days at a time, multiple times a year with high school students? She does it. She says it keeps her young. Everyone, Minnie Jean's favorite quote, which I love, from the great Indian leader Gandhi. We have to be the change we want to see in the world. I'm tired of people talking the talk. You want to see change? It has to start with us, within. Now I'm going to share my last film clip. 1997. In Little Rock, they're now celebrating. It's been 40 years and they're celebrating what Minnie Jean and her friends did. All over Little Rock, camera crews. Take a look, please, at the camera crews filming in Little Rock. Watch closely.
Yes, I know a little about the anniversary. I've heard a little talk.
I'm vaguely aware of the anniversary of the high school.
I don't know anything about the anniversary, sir. No, I don't know about the Little Rock Band.
That's in Little Rock, Arkansas. You know more in this little 10-minute session than most people live in Little Rock. Minnie Jean lives 3 blocks from that high school. You know how many times she's been invited to that high school to speak? Once. She said, nobody cares. Minnie Jean's not in our history books. We've been ripped off, knowing this founding mother of this country. Now I'm going to show you my favorite clip. Same thing. There's a press conference. All 9 are at the press conference. And a reporter from the New York Times says, can I ask you a question? Minnie Jean's so polite. Of course you can. And he proceeds to ask her the stupidest question you could ask her, and she gets ticked off. He doesn't say, what was it like to be the first student to go there? That's a good question. What was it like to show this amazing courage? That's a fair question. What do you think he asks her about that nobody cares? I don't know, somebody almost say it here. He asks her about the chili. All the things you could ask this icon, and you ask her about chili. He says, were you expelled because of chili? And she gets ticked off. She gives a 3-word answer. Why was she expelled? Imagine you have a daughter at high school age. She's talking to all of our women in this room. All of our women. Listen closely, please.
One of the greatest stories of the civil rights movement is the story of you and a bowl of chili in the cafeteria. One thing I'm curious about is I've read it a couple of different ways in terms of whether that specific incident was responsible for your expulsion or whether it was something else.
Well, I think the reason for my expulsion was that I was tall, beautiful, and proud. And I've had a lot of time to think about that. And I'm not going to go through the story of the chili, because the chili incident is symbolic of what happens when one is tall, beautiful, and proud, and unlike the stereotype of what a young black woman should be. I tried to explain that to my kids, that I wasn't a violent person. I was steeped in nonviolence, but I did have emotions.
I finished with these thoughts. First of all, did you hear how dumb the question was? One of the greatest stories of the civil rights movement is you and the bowl of chili? Isn't one of the greatest stories of the civil rights movement you going to the high school and breaking segregation? Why was she expelled? Why was she expelled in her words?
She was expelled because she was tall, proud, and beautiful.
Tall, proud, and beautiful. I don't like the word tall. We all come in different sizes. I get what she means. Carry yourself proudly. Think about the words beautiful and proud. Beautiful and proud. Now let me bring this home. I'm on high school campuses all over this country, and do you know, when did it become okay to call our high school women bitch and hoe? It's on every high school campus I visit where women are regularly called bitch and hoe. So here's what I say. You want to honor Minnie Jean? Bitch and hoe, leave your vocabulary, and beautiful and proud take over. Every woman has a right to feel beautiful and proud. Every woman has a right to feel beautiful and proud. And when you study the story of Minnie Jean Brown, whether you're on the trip with her, reading about her, you can't help but transform, because she's all about beautiful and proud. Now, this is a 2-hour presentation I did in 20 minutes. Are there any questions I can answer for you? By the way, the brochure has our website. There's a donation envelope should you want to help. We're a nonprofit, a 501c3, so we help kids who can't afford it, and we're only as strong as our ability to raise money. And you're all invited if you want to go in February or March. Any questions I may answer?
How do you choose the children to go?
You know what? I'm a big believer we never choose kids to go. They self-select.
How do they self-select?
I go to a high school and I present to every sophomore, junior, and senior in the high school. I do a lesson on the civil rights movement. So every kid has to take government, U.S. history, and economics at the junior, senior level. So I'll do 6 or 7 of these presentations in a day. If it's block schedule, I'll do 3 or 4. At the end of the presentation, those who are not interested, I argue, have learned more than they ever have about the civil rights movement. Those who are, we give them a brochure and a card, they fill it out, and we call their parents. I'm a big believer in never selecting kids, because we have kids who fall through the cracks, and maybe Minnie Jean's story is going to speak to them, and they say, I need to be part of this. We always take, honors kids always get opportunity. When do kids who I say are struggling students, but really nice kids, ever get opportunity? You hang out with Minnie Jean for 10 days, who risked her life for education, I'm gambling, you're going to come back a different person.
Does the foundation fund their trip?
We don't pay for anyone's full trip. We help between 1 to 60% of kids qualify. This is how I describe it. We have this much money, we have this much need. And so the money goes to help kids go on the trip, but they also have to be vested in the process. I'm a big believer in them being vested. No one gets a free ride. Any other questions I may answer? So Google this founding mother when you get home, and 10,000 things will come up. And again, Steve and I will be here after if you want to see us, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity and learning about this. Thank you. He said olive oil or wine. Thank you.
Thank you.